Hey crafty friends, it's Ashley and I'm excited to be back with Jen Chapin for week 2 of Pinspired paper crafting. Our inspiration image this week has a lot to choose from. It inspired me to do a fall layout because of the shoes, the wood background, and kind of some of the trees. And here's a little sneak at my layout. And before I get started with the process of the video, I'm going to show you how I created that background of the leaves in Silhouette Studio. So I'm going to open one of the cut files from the cut shop. This is the Leaf It to Me cut file. And it's one from a while ago, but I really love it. It has 4 different leaf shapes. So I'm going to open that up and I'm going to trace it. And if you're using the newer version of Silhouette Studio, they moved the trace feature under panels. So I just select everything for the select trace area and then trace it, and I can get rid of the PNG file. I don't need that anymore. And once I have it traced, I want to separate everything. So I'm going to go to Release Compound Path, and that just separates everything in the image. Now, once you do that, if you want to, you can go back and group. And for what I'm doing, you're actually going to have to make each one of these a compound path. If you don't do that, it's not going to weld your images together the correct way, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So make sure you go under and go back and make those a compound path. Now for these 2 leaves, I wanted these to be an outline, so I'm actually going to go and create an offset, and that's also under panels. So I just go to the offset box and you can change the width of your offset here. I dropped mine down to 100 for both leaves because I wanted to have an outline big enough to cut but not too thick. So I get both of those offset, and you can adjust your settings depending on how you want it to cut. Like I said, I put mine at 100 just so I could have that little bit of extra space there. And then once I do that, I want to make those a compound path also. I'm going to leave the one on top as is, just to show you what it does if you don't make it a compound path. And I also wanted to use the veins of these 2 leaves on the layout, so I'm going to do that same process. And I dropped those down to 0.25, but you need to make sure you have 0.025. If you go anywhere under 100, you need to make sure it's 0.0 whatever you want to have it, because it won't do it the correct way if you don't use that 0. So I also got both of those, and you can see that they fit back in the leaf shapes just the way that I want them to, and I'm going to cut those later off camera, and I'll add those in during the process video. So now I want to start placing these and show you how I put the layout together. This isn't exactly the same layout that I did. I just wanted to use this to show you the process for doing that. And so you want to make sure you overlap each of the shapes. I just overlapped a little bit. If you wanted to, you could overlap a lot more so that the shapes go inside one another. I just wanted the edges to overlap for each of the leaf shapes just so I could have that little bit to weld there. And so I'm going to put this one. This is the one that is not made into a compound path. And you'll see what happens when I go to the weld feature for that. So once I have them all in place, I want to select all of them and then go up to the little weld tool at the top of the page. And now you can see that it took that inside part off of the other leaf because I did not have that a compound path. So I'm going to go back and undo that. And I'm going to go ahead and make it a compound path. And it will fix that problem. So I'll do that same process again, just select all the leaves and go back and weld. And now you can see that it welded all the shapes together. So that's a pretty fun way to manipulate your cut files. And you can see I have it cut here. I'm using a pattern paper background from Photo Play Paper. And it's a wood grain. I can't remember the name of the collection right now, and I forgot to look at it. But I liked that wood grain floor in the photo, in the inspiration photo. So I really wanted a wood grain background for this layout. And I cut the cut file from white cardstock because I wanted to have a clear separation from the background because it was a darker background. And I knew I was going to be using a lot of pattern papers. So I wanted that white to really separate the cut file and make it stand out. And for everything else I'm using on this layout, it's all the Simple Stories Forever Fall collection. I really love this collection kit. It has so many fun things in it, and I have to restrain myself from using too much because everything in the collection is so cute. And now you can see I'm backing the cut files with some of the pattern papers. So I just cut around that, and I'm using my fine liner adhesive to go around. And when I do these, I like to have the adhesive like as close to the inside edge part as I can get it, because that's where my cut file sticks. And I'm gonna back these in two ways. For that one, I actually used the piece from inside the leaf and traced it. And then for these that had the more intricate middle parts, I'm just tracing the leaf shape itself. And for the others, I cut a little outline further outside my pencil drawing. For the ones like this that I trace, I cut the outline a little bit inside the pencil drawing just to make sure it fits. And if it doesn't fit all the way, you can always go back and trim it later. So now you can see I've got pretty much everything backed. I'm going to finish this one little one here. And you'll notice on some of my leaves, I did not do the stem part, and I did that on purpose because I wanted the stem to have the separate color of the wood grain in the background. There is one in the middle that I actually didn't trace that part on accident, but it's going to be covered by my photo, so it doesn't really matter for that one. And you can see I have my veins finished, and so I'm going to add those in. I cut most of them in a darker color because most of the ones that I used for the pattern papers for the inside leaf shapes were lighter color pattern papers, so I really wanted the veins to stand out. If it was a darker leaf, then I did the opposite and cut it from a lighter pattern paper. So I really like the definition that these add back to the layout and just giving that look of the leaf shape. So I finished all those off camera, and I did add some machine stitching off camera also just to have that extra texture. And I actually want this whole cut file to be popped up, and so I'm going to add pop dots on all of the leaves, and I'm just going to show you part of the process here so you don't have to watch the whole thing. And I just used a mix of the big pop dots and the small pop dots and got all of those done off camera, and now I have that dimension that I was looking for. And so this is my photo, which was also inspired by the inspiration image because I liked the flat lay photo and the fact that she had her socked feet kind of peeking out in the picture too. And I had taken this photo on a trip when we went to the Smoky Mountains a few weeks ago. And I had my little hiking shoes and just kind of took a picture of some of the area that we were hiking in, and really loved this kind of fallen tree. And so I really liked this photo for the layout, and I wanted it to stand out also a little bit from the background since there's a lot going on with the cut file and the pattern papers. So I decided to layer some layering pieces behind the photo just to help it stand out. And I cut this photo, it's not an Instax photo, but I printed it on a 4x6 and then cut it to look like an Instax photo because I wanted that extra little space at the bottom of the picture to add some layering pieces, which I'm going to start doing now with the embellishments from the Forever Fall collection. And I really like this sticker sheet. It has a ton of stickers on it and like a lot of the little word phrases, which I love. So a lot of times when I'm using this, it takes me a long time to decide what I want to use because there's so much to choose from. But I got started with the little cluster there at the bottom, and the Autumn Love sticker is actually going to be my title. And so I'm adding in some of the chipboard pieces here too. And my photo was shifting around a little bit since it was on top of all of that dimension from the cut file being raised up. So I decided to add a little bit of my liquid adhesive to help adhere that down. And I'm just kind of creating my main cluster here. I'm not going to add a lot over the layout itself because I want my leaves to actually be seen. So I'm not going to layer too much anywhere else on the layout. Most of it's going to be clustered around the photo here. And I want to go through these die cuts. There are a ton of die cuts in this collection. And when I ordered it, I didn't realize that it all came together as a collection pack. And so I ended up ordering 2 of these die cut packs and 2 of this chipboard stickers. So I have a lot, and which is great because I love fall. So I'm ready to do a ton of fall layouts. So right now I'm just going through those die cut packs looking for anything that I want to use. And like I said, there are a ton. And I like these die cuts from Simple Stories because they are the perfect size. I've noticed a lot of the companies lately have been making their die cuts really big. And sometimes I find it's hard to use the ephemera packs, if you want to call them the die cuts or ephemera packs, just because they're so big, and it's hard to incorporate them sometimes into my layouts because one of the reasons is because I like to use large cut files. And so when I feel like I have a large cut file that it's difficult for me to work in large ephemera also. So I really like that these are a lot smaller. They're kind of a middle size, and so they're perfect, and there's lots of them to choose from. So I'm actually using some of these to create two other little cluster spots. I just put one at the top of the page, the little banner piece, and then another little banner with some leaves on the right hand side, and that kind of creates a visual triangle at the top of my page and then to the right, and then coming back to the photo without covering up a lot of what I have on the layout already. So I just used some stickers. For some reason, I kept wanting a flower cluster right here on the right side of the photo. I tried to use one of the chipboard ones earlier, one of the die cut ones. Now I'm trying to use a sticker. I was thinking about cutting off the little maroon ones, but for some reason I just didn't like it there and decided to go with the heart instead. I think the colors of the flowers just blended in too much with that leaf shape, and the heart really stands out. And I wanted to add my date, so I went back and cut that little banner piece from the ephemera pack to use to add my date. And now I'm looking for the perfect sticker to go at the top of my photo, because I like to put everything around my photo there. And I wanted one that kind of stood out, so I went with the darker one. And I am going to add the date here, and this is getting close to finishing up the layout. Make sure you head over to Jen's channel. I will leave a link to her video and to her channel in the description box below, so make sure you head over and check her out. And I'll also leave a link to the products that I used on my layout. If you're a new subscriber, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. And if you enjoyed watching today, I hope you will give me a thumbs up. Thanks so much for joining us for this series, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday.